In episode 423 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Watchmen's Emmy night.
We also have the changes to DC Universe streaming and what this means for the future of the app.
And our comic book highlight this week is Sonic the Hedgehog number 32.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Emperor Kelli.
And I am Pyramid King Daniel.
Pyramid King? Like Pyramid Head Daniel?
Well, I mean, Aztec Pyramid Head, sure.
Okay,
Look at my skin color.
For those of you joining us for the very first time, the way we format the show is go through some news, ranging from all those topics we just talked about. We have our Patreon shout-outs of the week. That's the thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible. Our comic book highlight as chosen by you. And we wrap it up with the Brocat Block, which is what happened with Daniel and I this week.
First bit of news kicks off with the new position that Dan DiDio now has, a former DC publisher, of course, for many years. He has joined the faculty of the Kubert School to teach comic book development. This is someone who was very comic shop friendly to all local shops. I met him during the big DC tour right at the end of the New 52, and as they were going into DC Rebirth, he went into different regions of the country, brought along Jim Lee, and they discussed what DC Rebirth was. And I'm glad that he found something that, it sounds like something that he wants to do.
This is definitely not what I would have envisioned for him doing. I don't know. I thought he would still really be predominantly in the comic book industry rather than teaching. But the course actually sounds like something that I want to take. So the synopsis for it is, quote, "In the course, he will show you how to develop and present your ideas to a character, book, or series to publishers or other media outlets. During these weekly sessions, you will discuss and work towards constructing a series Bible and a story concept pitch that will generate opportunities in a crowded marketplace," end quote.
DiDio's From Concept to Sale class is scheduled to run weekly through the end of the year and begins on October 1st, so already about a week away. Absolutely incredible that this is already, obviously he had something already in plan to go into the Kubert School. You always see the Kubert School ads on the back of the DC Comics.
Right.
And a lot of great people, of course, up and coming. The artist that we were in contact with for many years, to Anne Bonny, was going to the Kubert School up in Jersey. So I'm glad DiDio is doing this. And if anyone knows, regardless of what you think about how he ran DC Comics, he knows and has heard many pitches from different writers, from different artists. He knows what he was looking for, and he's probably going to try to reflect that and teach that to up-and-coming comic creators.
Joke's on all of us. He still really works for DC. This is just a ploy to get some cheap comic pitches.
Here's how you do a comic pitch. Okay, all of you pitch to me, and we're going to create a new publishing company. In a year from now, you're going to see his brand new comic imprint.
DiDio Comics.
And it's got like that DC, it's like a parody logo, right?
Yep, it's got to be.
You know what? I would sub to those. I'd do it. Good for DiDio. I'm really happy for him.
Is this a class that you want to take at all? Does it sound interesting?
Only to hang out with him.
Yeah,
I would
right?
just hear him talk and talk about everything but probably the class, just to hang out and get to know him a little bit better.
So
he was a nice guy.
So you would fail the class, is what you're telling me, because you wouldn't do work. You'd just be there for DiDio.
Oh, no, I got to retake it again next semester. All right.
Damn it.
We'll hang out for hours again.
It only cost me $2,000 to hang out with you once a week for a semester.
DiDio, this guy keeps flunking. You just can't get him through.
You're just not a very good teacher, I guess, DiDio. Now you're fired.
Moving along here on the future of DC. In January 2021, DC Universe will be relaunching internationally as DC Universe Infinite.
The service will be digital comics only for $74.99 a year or $7.99 a month.
keyword there being internationally in that opening, because it is now going to be available in way more territories than ever. Digitized books will hit the service 3 months after publication. Previously, it was 6 months, and will feature DC Universe Infinite original comics.
As for the new TV shows, existing DC Universe subscribers will have the opportunity to add HBO Max to their subscription for $4.99 per month.
So they're bringing back that deal to try to get you that streaming portion of the TV shows, at least, over to HBO Max. I think that should have been an ongoing deal as far as DC Universe subscribers. The 3-month gap as opposed to the 6, once again, just reconfirms that AT&T or DC, their focus continues to be on the digital market. The forefront is no longer the primary marketplace, which they did the 6-month as a grace to comic shops, because they would say, all right, well, if you want to get your books as early as possible, you go to your comic shop. 3 months is still good. And I don't think the 3 to 6 month is going to make a difference with readers anyway. But if it didn't make a difference, then why change it, type of thing? I guess just to incentivize the already digital market.
Yeah, I would say it may be something that they're doing because they're moving into an international market. So now you're going to have people who may not ever have an opportunity to get these books sent to them, or I don't know how far DC's reaches as far as the international market, but it allows for more opportunity for more people to see this. So it may just be a great thing for them to be like, okay, they only got it 3 months early in the US and now you're getting it
a lot earlier, yeah. And that also gets them a lot more current when they're promoting the latest arcs, the latest previews, than the rest of the world that didn't have these comics or didn't have any physical books at all at their disposal can now be more or less on the same page as everyone else. Yes, it's 3 months. That's 3 to 6 issues if it releases twice monthly. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that far behind.
I know it definitely feels like, and yeah, they are focusing more on digital books. However, like you said, I really don't think the 3 to 6 month is going to make a difference for it. Like, nobody's going to come into your shop and be like, let me not pick it up this week because in 3 months I can get it for free on my streaming service. Like, nobody's going to do that, right? If they do, they're just, I don't even know. But at the same time, like I just said, it gets more eyes in other countries, the ability to be able to fall in love with these characters that we're already in love with.
I've only ever had one subscriber say, and this was right when DC Universe was releasing, say, I need to cancel my subscription. He was collecting Harley Quinn only, really. So anything with Harley he was subscribed to. And he said, I just signed up for DC Universe, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel my subscription because I'm going to get this week's books and I'm just going to read them on there. And I told him, oh, just so you know that the service's books are 6 months behind the current line. And I just want you to know. And he's like, oh, really? 6 months behind? No, I'll just keep my sub then.
Right.
So for a lot, that's the only time. And he ended up sticking around and he's still a subscriber at the shop. Even the 3 month difference, maybe that's going to make the difference with him. But again, that's the one person that I've come across that has, I guess, in some way, the service could have negatively affected me in that way. There's one subscriber that was getting his physical books through an online retailer, but due to the switch in distributors, they became very flaky on what they could or couldn't get. So he ended up moving. He was already getting indie and Marvel books through us, but then he said, all right, you guys can pull DC books as well because that online retailer is not fulfilling their end of the bargain. So things are working pretty well, I think, for local comic stores because we had to adapt to these changes.
Right,
there was no other option. It was that or only serve indie and Marvel books. And yes, that's sustainable, but it's not at all as profitable as if we're serving all of our readers. So it's kind of a adapt or die type of situation. And we're getting some benefits from that with this digital and really just digital market, whether you're getting physical books online or not. Your local shop, at least for us, the way we handle it is working out. With this change to DC Universe, you and I have been championing this service since it came out, but not at all for the digital books. And we talked how it's a great service if you read digitally and if you have no problem with it. You and I prefer the physical book when it comes to American comic books. I know you read your novels and your Korean comics digitally, but for American books, we still like to have the pen and or paper and ink right in front of us. This means that I have already unsubscribed from the service. I've canceled my plan. I did the annual plan because I'm happily going to pay them to be able to stream the Timverse and everything else around it. But since those are all going to be taken away and probably moved to HBO Max, which is what everyone kind of thought was going to happen anyway, I have no use for this service anymore. I didn't read any of the books digitally. I didn't use it for that. So I went ahead and canceled.
I think they're going to see a lot of that. But at the same time, the service is now going to cost them less because they're just throwing the books up there. They can probably format it a little differently, don't need quite as many algorithms or whatever goes into this. I don't really know. But at the same time, by moving it over to HBO Max, maybe some people who were subscribed to this are now subscribing to HBO instead, and they're going to get those profits there. So ultimately, I don't think they're really going to lose too many people by doing this. They're just going to probably transfer to a different service.
Hopefully the timing works out well for them. I know the latest news is that they are working out deals with Roku to have the app on that platform, which is pretty much what the majority of the market has right now, and the Fire Stick. So if that plan goes through, that'll be great timing for, hey, we're now available on Roku and you can stream DC Universe Originals, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, all of these animated movies just got added on to HBO Max, and that will help with that subscriber push.
And read a book about it.
It is a shame that I am losing out on that platform at least, but I was already subscribed to HBO Max, so to me, it's not really making a difference. In fact, I'm saving a little bit of money now.
You know, the other thing that I'm going to push back with, and I was really impressed with what they did with DC Universe, and I liked it, and I was happy that that streaming service was there, but we always had issues anytime we were streaming something. I felt like Harley Quinn, we could never finish watching it through the Roku. We had to pull it up on my phone and stream it through there for it to actually work, and it would freeze and we'd have to restart, and we did have a significant number of issues with it. So moving into HBO Max, the far superior of everything streaming service, we've had no issues there. So I guess in their minds too is kind of like, let's just leave this to the professionals. Just move this over.
Well, that's the funny thing is we joke about how things just play better on HBO Max anyway. They literally will play better on HBO Max. They won't stutter and stop streaming.
Right. But if you were subscribed to the service, if you are sticking with it, let us know on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke, at Kelli. We would love to hear your thoughts.
We have one thought from Broket, Twitter user at Men Are Still Good, who says, quote, I wish the price dropped some, but just happy the service is still going to be available for the comics, end quote.
There you go.
I believe the Marvel Unlimited one is $7.99, so it's already cheaper than the Marvel version of that, which a lot of people are pointing out.
Are you surprised? that didn't even need to be a statement. That just the universe already knew that.
There's probably an activation fee as well, and then if you want to cancel, you got to pay a little bit more. So that's the one thing. If you compare it to another digital platform, which I'm completely ignorant about, but apparently people are saying that it's still cheaper than the competition.
And it's DC. Like, come on, I'll just pay them whatever they want.
Better artwork, better stories. We're good.
All of these.
And speaking of comic books, there's a letterer out there who is not at all happy with the current state of Watchmen.
Comic book letterer Jim Campbell let loose via Twitter on Tom King and the team behind the upcoming Rorschach series.
His tweet read, quote, his now deleted tweet read, quote, fuck Tom King, fuck Jorge Fornes and Dave Stewart. Fuck anyone who participates in this blatant IP theft by DC. If your paycheck is so important that you'll sanction this absolute robbery, fuck you, end quote.
What exactly is he mad about?
So his thing was, he went off about this whole thing, is that the team behind Watchmen, Dave Gibbons, Alan Moore, this story was meant to just be a one-off story without any sequels, any prequels, anything else, and that the rights were to revert back to them if the book were to cease being published, reprinted, in other words. And that was a part of the contract. And a lot of people were saying, well, they should have been better at, like, look, comic publishers, big companies will screw you with these contracts. And it's a reality of the way the world works, and it's unfortunate. And this doesn't mean that you should just accept it, but this is how this particular contract went out, in that because DC is still publishing the trade and keeping that in print, they can continue to use the characters, the IP, and everything however they'd like. And that's what they've been doing with the characters. Their wishes, the creators, the way they had set up that contract was, we set up this contract so that there would be no other use of these characters, and they've been vocal about it. But the way that they went, yeah, that's if we stop printing this, that's how they've been going around it and been able to expand the world of Watchmen. So he's going at this from a creator standpoint, kind of putting himself in their shoes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but at the same time, your characters are still being used and being loved. And I get it. I'm not a creator, okay? I nothing of my I mean, I created a child, but anyway, nothing of that I find very beloved, that I put a lot of time and effort behind, is being used when I don't want it to be used. I get that. But on the flip side, like, that's great that their stuff is still being published, and that's great that so many people are talking about it. And, you know, I've really enjoyed some of the things that have come out of that, like the Watchmen series that we would not have gotten on the superior streaming service of HBO Max if we had given them the rights back and stopped, you know, reprinting this book.
A lot of people have also pointed out that the Watchmen characters are already based on existing DC characters anyway that they weren't allowed to use. So it's kind of like there's a gray area there, even though it's like original, but they're not, but they are at the same time. So I just thought this was a great article that went up, and how this letterer went off on everything. And I thought that'd be kind of a good discussion point. And for the most part, I am with you, and I totally understand as a creator why this would be very frustrating. But that's when I, as a creator, would just, and I don't know, maybe I would just deal with this differently than they do, but I would just say, all of those other things are not solicited or sanctioned or approved of by me. My Watchmen is just what I wrote or what I drew, and that's the world of Watchmen to me. Everything around it is someone else's creation, and that's kind of where I'd leave it.
I mean, I think that's probably the best way to look at it. Again, going back to understanding that you and I are not in that position to be upset about it, but definitely, like, they created their thing and that was awesome, but it's not even, they're using this new Rorschach, right? They're not using the one who clearly died. It wasn't like they brought back the old Rorschach and they're like, JK, he's not really dead.
Well, even if they did, so be it. That's the one thing that I know fans are really upset about, of even with Doomsday Clock or the Before Watchmen series, that they're adding to the lore, which to them changes the original work. But me as a fan, whenever I see something, for example, Harley Quinn, there was that period in the New 52 where we were like, that's not our Harley Quinn. And now we say it differently, like, you know, that's not our Harley Quinn. And that's where the difference is. If that's the Watchmen, if that, let's say they bring back Rorschach, great. They make him, they change his name, they change the costume, and they still call him Rorschach, whatever it is. It's like, if I don't like that, I've got the original work. And I know that's never going to change. It's that same argument that comes about whenever they reboot a movie or bring back the Ghostbusters, for example. It's like, you're still always going to have, don't watch the new stuff, don't support it if you don't like to watch it. You still have your old one. And as long as I still have the thing that I enjoyed and I can still have access to it, I don't care.
I do like his tweet, though, because I feel like he was drunk when he wrote it. Like,
could have been
100% drunk. That's why it got deleted after. He was talking to his friends and ranting, and they're like, you should tweet that. And he's like, yeah, fuck you, Tom King. Fuck you, these other guys.
What set him off on this is there's a retailer exclusive variant of Rorschach as a profile shot, similar to the Three Jokers that we've been seeing, the covers with just the Joker's face, almost exactly like that. And it's Rorschach's. And he's got a word bubble, and he was criticizing the letterer on that cover.
Jesus Christ. I would have been a better letterer, but fuck all you guys.
He was pointing out errors in lettering that were obvious to him. Like, no, you never use a capital. This is just lettering 101, and that's what made him go off on everything. But you just said that. That reminds me of Ty Templeton's comic from like a decade ago that he put up on his website when they were doing Before Watchmen. And he was saying the industry's reaction to Before Watchmen, those motherfuckers, they're ruining Watchmen. Why didn't they call me?
Yep, there we go. That's exactly what's happening. Why can't I be the letterer? But you're ruining it. I wouldn't ruin it. Fuck.
I would have approved of this. I thought it would have been great. The tune would have changed.
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat.
2020 is, of course, a very odd and bizarre year, which has made for some very interesting episodes of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast.
Oddest thing about 2020. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
No hurricanes in Florida. 20 hurricanes have touched down in the U.S. and none in Florida.
See, these facts now, I'm like, no, that fits now with 2020. If we get something normal, that'll be the weird thing.
We have now gone through the entire alphabet. I think we've gone through the entire alphabet at this point.
The last one I heard of was Sally.
Oh, no. I think we're like with tropical storms. I know there's a Teddy for sure.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that at least they're projecting we'll go through the entire alphabet and they're going to jump over to the Greek alphabet starting next year or this year or something like that.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
No, it's not okay. At least one of them needs to hit Florida. I just want one.
Well, this year, we did not celebrate Batman Day like any other year, unfortunately. They didn't do the comic books like we covered last week. And at the store, to be honest with you, ended up being we didn't do an event of it. And to be honest with you, I don't think it would have been successful anyway, because there's really nothing to offer to anyone aside from like running a sale in store, which is not even a DC supported thing anyway. But online, all these artists, writers, filmmakers celebrated Batman. I don't know if you saw a ton of Batman posts on your end, but especially on Instagram, every artist put up their Batman drawing that they either did for the event or in the past. Like people that used to work on DC books, on Batman Detective, they would say, "Happy Batman Day, here's a cover from a run I did." And Zack Snyder himself also put out a tweet and a post on Vero.
He said, quote, "Batman is all of us. He is our rage at injustice. He stands alone, as we all wish we could, in the face of a corrupt system which wishes to oppress and exploit. He is that broken child searching the dark alleys for the human soul to bring balance to the world." End quote.
It was retweeted by DC Comics, and it was retweeted by someone else, but I'll get to that in a second. Because it is Zack Snyder, and everything he does gets an unsolicited pushback from all of these creatives, blogs, reviewers. So I was joking with my coworker of they're going to find something here to pick at. And we were joking at the things that they would have a problem on this tweet at all. And it ended up not being a joke, because later on in the afternoon, I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at Instagram, I'm looking everywhere, and I'm like, holy shit, these motherfuckers still found shit to pick at with this thing and to bring back that evidence and support that Zack Snyder forever lives in their head rent-free.
What did they say to this poor man?
So their main thing, like, there was the bullshit of like, and his Batman also likes to murder, and it's
Jesus.
That kind of
like
stuff.
The first Batman liked to murder too. So
every fucking Batman on screen and in the comics and in the cartoons murders. So that's already been a thing.
Perfect,
but whatever. Yeah. Their main thing, another rebuttal I saw was Batman has a butler and we don't. So they were just taking this superficially, like literally he's not us. And it's like, shut up, stop. Even the great Adam Hughes, I'm like, even you, Adam, not you, not you, Adam Hughes.
Stop, Adam Hughes.
One of those things where I love his artwork, but now it's like, God damn it, now I have to not like you as a person, maybe? I don't know. Let's see what he ends up doing. But their main thing was that, at least the message that I kept seeing, is that Batman is not all of us, that he does this so that we don't have to be that, and that we don't have to do the things he does. That was mainly championed by Dan Slott.
Of course.
And Film Gob appropriately pointed out that shouldn't we all be striving to be the best versions of ourselves like Batman? It sounds like this Dan Slott guy is lazy. And that's what he was saying. And I found no problem at all with the tweet. I absolutely agreed with everything Zach said. You and I as Batman fans, what do you think about this?
I think people just want to pick at Snyder about things. And I'm going to turn into, what was his name? Dan Crockett from back in the day and be like, leave Snyder alone. And I hide in my closet with my hair.
That's a 24/7 job.
it's just
crazy.
Leave Snyder alone.
I never saw him as someone that does this so that Gotham could just relax and chill and not have their parents killed. That's never I always saw him as a beacon of hope and inspiration for the people of Gotham.
Right. And wanting to stop injustice, exactly like he said, and wanting to take care of others because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, his motivation in the beginning was probably, I lost my parents and I don't want others to go through this. But again, he has the means, he has the ability, and it's the right thing to do. So why not do something about it instead of hiding away in his manor and just being sad?
A lot of the younger viewers, readers, whatever you may call it, they have this criticism now against the character. And I don't know if that's always been a thing, but I've only just noticed it over the last year, of this rich man goes around Gotham beating up on the poor, is how they view the character. And they're saying that he should rehabilitate them instead of punching them in the face and permanently crippling them, is how they view it. And I have no relation at all to that view. I don't know why that's coming about. I don't know if it reflects on other parts of the world, the current climate that we're in, where they're seeing anyone who's rich as trying to exploit the poor. But that, to me, tells me that they don't have a huge understanding, or at least a huge background on the character. And because that the character's already been set up, all these Wayne Foundations, hospitals, he does a lot with his money as well to help out Gotham. He fights both as Bruce and as Batman. And it's not that he's just fucking picking on poor people. These are criminals that he's taking down.
Well, yeah, he's fighting rich criminals too.
That too.
Like
Everyone.
the mafia and so many Cobblepot, right? He's super rich, so he's fighting the people who are wrong. But going back to it, so much of Batman's origins in so many different areas, he lived as someone who was poor, right? When he did his training, he went to other countries, and okay, yes, he had the money and the means to do that. But when he got there, he didn't rely on his money and his means. He said, okay, I'm going to understand the mind of a criminal. I'm going to understand the minds of these people that, I'm fighting. But then how many people does he throw in Arkham? And then the system still lets them down. Is Batman supposed to rehabilitate them himself?
Personally, yeah.
Like, he's supposed to take them back to the Batcave and be like, I'm going to make you a better person? Like, no. And then in the meantime, while he's trying to make them better, is he just supposed to let all these other people die? I'm just very confused.
It's a really bizarre view on the character, really bizarre take on it that I don't think I'll ever really understand or relate with.
No, I feel like they're just trying to pick at something.
They're trying to politicize, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Batman to current events.
Yes.
And I don't think that you can correlate the two. And I know comics can be a reflection of the times, but that's not the connection there. A rich person's beating up poor people. It's like, I'm trying to figure out like a parallel to that in a way. I guess on the other side, Spider-Man, a scientist, is also, okay, so you can say science is oppressing the poor because he goes around and punches criminals and beats. That's the exact same type of correlation, superficial.
Okay. Are they talking about Iron Man who beats up people too?
Oh, of course they're
also
not.
Rich?
No, they're not. In fact, Iron Man kills himself,
okay.
but he kills him more often.
Perfect. Yeah. So Iron Man is a rich man who is an alcoholic and killing people. So
that's true. And he's doing it in a suit of armor, so he's protected by his wealth, quite literally. No, let's not talk about that.
No. Of course not.
And I think that's a bullshit take too, but that's the exact same thing they're doing with the character.
Oh my goodness.
Some people were saying that they want Zach to just tweet. He could tweet literally anything and they will find a way to spin it to be a negative thing about him and about what he said.
The sky is blue today. Maybe where you are, Zach, but my forests are on fire, so my sky is not blue.
The sky is red here. Maybe you should be more aware of the world around you and the other skies around you, Zach, not just the ones above your head. That would absolutely be a take right there. Absolutely. Maybe you should do something about these California fires with your money. That's exactly what would happen. And that's not even a joke at this point. That's exactly what they would say.
I'm so smart.
You don't happen to have any other Twitter handles, right? That you're trolling people with? And
Who, me?
Going after Zach?
I am actually trying to come up. I am trying to come up with a Twitter handle so that I can do a school project, but I have not decided on it yet.
Well, we do have a ton of Batman news this week. More here. The Batman. On the other side, Matt Reeves. By the way, Matt Reeves retweeted Zack Snyder's tweet there. So all these Matt Reeves fans that were criticizing Zack, your precious Matt Reeves also thinks the same.
Wait. We're moving too fast. You presented the question, but then you didn't answer it yourself. You just talked about Zack Snyder. So what is it about Batman that keeps you coming back?
Did we go with, you haven't answered yours yet, right?
No.
So I know the truth of it is Batman the Animated Series. I was exposed to it as a kid. I grew up watching Batman the Animated Series, and it has stuck with me. That's kind of what made me a DC fan for life, because I had the combo of Batman the Animated Series and the Tim Burton films, the first two early ones, that really got that character ingrained in my, I guess, nerddom, if that was even a thing back then.
You nerd.
And it all kind of returned again about a decade ago when Kevin Conroy started doing more projects for DC. They had just wrapped up Justice League Unlimited. You got the Arkham games. And they kind of had this resurgence of Batman the Animated Series, which, of course, to me was an amazing thing, because that's my definitive Batman is the animated series. And then you had this amazing string of stories like Gotham City Sirens, Gotham Central. You had the New 52 Batman. And then you have classics as well, like The Killing Joke, Batman Year One, The Dark Knight Returns. So it's just had this great momentum over the last, my life, over 30 years that has kept me going. And as a character himself, like that's the truth of it, Batman the Animated Series. But as a character himself, it is that peak of human perfection. It's the mental aspect and the physical aspect of what a person can do to train under a lot of training and discipline and a lot of bit of insanity. So I don't think any of us could really be Batman because there's one Batman and that's Bruce Wayne. But it's kind of really cool to strive for that someone like us, in a way, can still throw down and take down an all-powerful Kryptonian and every other villain in the DC universe, and hero for that matter.
I think one of the things that really keeps me coming back to Batman is there is this wonderful array of characters behind him that they've developed such great stories that you can, we talk about how all of us is Batman, but you can find something that you relate to in one of these characters, right? Or just, some way to sympathize with these villains. So as Batman's fighting them, you're like, yeah, Batman, but wait, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many of them. So it's not just that's a villain, you need to take him down. They're very human. There's somebody that you can connect with and say, well, but I get why you're doing it, right? I understand, Ra's al Ghul, why you want to destroy the world. Cause we're all kind of shitty. And I think that is, while I love Batman as a character, and Bruce Wayne's kind of hot, so awesome, right? And, the romance between him and Selena is just awesome, on par.
You're getting a lot of that now.
I know, and I'm so excited. Don't act like it's a bad thing. It's a great thing.
No,
it's wonderful. Yes, thank you. So, yeah, you really have that, but then you have all these people around him that keep you coming back to those stories, because it's not just, Batman's going to kick ass. It's, oh man, let's see how we can sympathize with this person. Let's see, the connection between him and Damian grow. Let's see Superman being in love with him, right? There's all these different things you can get out of the books rather than just the action and just Batman kicking ass.
We were talking about the Dio doing his own imprint. On Batman alone, you had mentioned all the villains and characters behind them. You could do a line of publishing. They could only publish the Batman universe, and they would be fine. And they're kind of already doing that. And Marvel is kind of already doing that with Spider-Man because people keep buying the books. You bring out a Batman 3 Jokers book, and it sells hundreds of thousands of copies. It's pretty insane. It's pretty amazing. And that speaks volumes to that universe, the Batman universe. All of those characters are a reflection of Bruce Wayne. And we relate to that because we relate a lot to Batman himself. So it's almost like a reflection of us as well. You can pick apart any villain and kind of see how that could be any one of us if we just had that one bad day, for example, with the Joker.
Now you can move on. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Well, as I was saying, the Batman on the Matt Reeves side has resumed filming after production was shut down due to Robert Pattinson testing positive for COVID-19.
Pattinson has fully recovered and has been cleared to work.
That is great to hear, and happy to hear that so far no one else has contracted. Did I say it right? Contracted?
Contracted.
This disease.
You know what happened? I know how he caught it.
Was it with his girlfriend or whatever? That girl he was, Bobby, I had seen this picture online, but Bobby had shared it on Discord.
No, he showed up in a graveyard and somebody was like, Avada COVID. He got it. We've been watching a lot of Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, at least he didn't die this time.
He contracted COVID.
I think this is a good scenario. I think, as we said last week or the week before, they should continue and resume because we don't know when this is all going to be over. It's not a matter of let's just wait until this all passes because we don't know if this will be a thing that we see a wave of every year or if this will be over in a month. We have no idea. So they should just try to move forward, continue going while you have these people there and do as much as you can.
Well, I'm glad he's feeling better. Hopefully it wasn't too severe, but for them to already be filming again, it's great to hear that he's recovered.
And hopefully Kevin Feige doesn't visit this set. I don't see pedo perv James Gunn working on the Batman, so hopefully that does not happen. But we ended up getting a lot more comments from the Brokehead Core on last week's tweet asking if there's a corporate rivalry between DC and Marvel's film divisions.
The answer is yes, but our first tweet comes from Jeremy Orr13, who said, quote, "Definitely think there is a rivalry. Marvel had the edge on the movie side of things for a while, but I think the tide is changing and Marvel sees it. There has never been a Marvel film like Joker." That was quote around film.
Yeah, good.
"They've never had fans like the Snyder Cut movement. Hashtag writings on the wall," end quote.
Testify.
What? Amen, brother.
Preach. It's so true. There's definitely a shift in tides here.
Mm-hmm.
I had said, we've been seeing it. I don't know if you've seen it yourself too, but with the MCU sheep, they have not been at all jazzed about the films. I've heard it time and time again from customers where they're like, well, after Endgame, I'm kind of like, all right, that's it. And I don't think their movies, they're going to have to do something big to get back that same level of, billion-dollar films or whatever they were doing before to get their fans back on board, especially when a lot of these actors that were there from the start of the current Marvel Studios run have died off in the universe or have retired from the role.
They're really going to have to change things up too, because I think if they give them another movie like we've seen for the last, 26 movies, yeah, coming off of Endgame, okay, well, here's another one exactly like the same thing. I just don't think you're going to have the hype behind it, especially like you said, with none of the characters they've grown to love in there.
Unless they, once again, try to copy some ideas from what was happening on here, as we discussed last week with BVS and Civil War, and then with Justice League 2 and 3 and Infinity War and Endgame. But I'm going to say hopefully they've tightened up. I don't have any confidence with that on Lord Feige's news last week, but we will see. I do agree a lot with Jeremy here talking about film itself. As long as we get cinema out of this universe with these characters, as he mentioned, like Joker, then I, for one, am fulfilled as someone who enjoys these characters and also enjoys movies.
Our next quote comes from at Matt B _0,
who said, quote, "Not weird he visited since they are friends, but I would have definitely kept his visit limited / an eye on him if I was WB. I find it more odd that people don't see it as weird. It's as if Apple CEO went to visit his friend at Samsung or wherever who was working on their next project. And people can say there isn't a rivalry, but aren't all studios in competition with one another? Release date wars have been more prominent lately, it seems," end quote.
I mean, very valid points. If they were going to visit, why didn't they just go to, the coffee shop outside the studio?
Yeah, why does Lord Feige have to go on set,
right there,
on there, and be there in the studio doing that nonsense? Absolutely sounds like something fishy's going on. It's exactly what they said. You don't see these companies, CEOs going to Microsoft and going, "Oh, what's going on over here? I'm visiting my friend Joe."
PS5 going over to Xbox like, "Hey, what's going on?"
There's no one here named Joe. Yeah, Joe Mama runs off like, "God damn it, he took our plans." Would have been fucking... That's exactly what's happening
here. Because they have printed plans. He just steals them all.
Last quote here comes from Twitter user at HelderOA, who says, quote,
"Anyone who thinks there's not a rivalry between Marvel Studios and DC Films is living in a dream world. Also, receiving the president of the competing company on your movie set is unethical to say the least," end quote.
Thank you. Brokehead Core is sound-minded right there. They all kind of see what is obvious to us, but ignored, purposefully overlooked, and diminished by the MCU sheep and everyone else that is definitely on that side of the camp.
So the moral of the story is, yes, rivalry. Feige, stay in your lane.
He has no business being there. We got some amazing news this week from the production of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
3 years after Justice League hit theaters, Zack Snyder's Justice League is going for reshoots in October.
THR reports that stars Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, and Ray Fisher are all participating in the reshoots.
Production is set to only go for a week, so photography isn't expected to dramatically alter Snyder's cut, but will instead flesh out his existing scenes.
There were a lot of articles coming out about how, before this was announced, that these actors would never return for any other roles for Zack Snyder, and they're all lined up right there for that week of reshoots. I think that is amazing. I think that's great. And I think it's also pretty cool that it's not like here's a 3-month shoot, where I think at that point it would dramatically alter whatever his cut of the film was. Then I'd be like, are they doing Justice League 2 right now? That's when I'd be...
right.
That's the news we'd be reporting. But instead, it does sound like maybe these are those original reshoots that he had tried to do but couldn't finish due to, the grieving that he was going through. And that's when WB took that opportunity and undermined the whole operation, the whole film and everything. So this tells me that there's a great relationship between these actors and Zack Snyder. And they were also questioning Ray Fisher if he had... They didn't think he was going to come back because of all the problems that he has with Warner Brothers, but specifically Joe Whedon, Jeff Johns, John Berg, who are not involved in this production. So to me, that wasn't a big surprise where people were saying, why is he coming back if he has a problem with Warner Brothers? It's like, because he's not working with those people. He's working with Zack Snyder. He's working with the actors that were not going through that, were not supplying that abuse that they allegedly all went through.
Right. And beyond that, it's HBO who's providing the money for this, right? So it's not even like Warner Brothers is paying him for the reshoots. It's coming from a completely different source. And he's going to get to be a part of getting this film released the right way, where his character isn't going to be treated poorly either.
Fisher worked with Chris Terrio and Zach on developing the character of Cyborg, and if he has the opportunity of doing that character right, even if it's just for a week of reshoots, then of course he's going to do it. I don't see why he wouldn't have.
I would go do a week of reshoot. Shit.
I think it's great. This is where we saw that contest of that clapboard.
Oh, yeah.
Of that contest winner, the art contest winner who gets to go on set for these reshoots and pay a visit. I think that's amazing. And from what I saw on the RTSC Twitter account, they have a lot of great plans ahead for the movement, and some of which do involve Zack Snyder.
I love that they continue to keep the fans in mind, too, as they're going through all this, giving us updates, letting us know what's going on, but at the same time, rewarding us in that small way as well.
I was going to try to guess as to what scenes they could possibly be fleshing back out with these reshoots when you have Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and Ray Fisher, Cyborg on set, these characters, but I'm also thinking we only saw 20 to 30% of his original cut of the film in Justice League, so I don't think it would make a lot of sense to try to guess that because there's a lot of unknowns in his film, which is a completely different thing anyway.
I don't know. I'm sad Momoa's not there. Like, we're not going to get to see more of him. He probably hasn't been working out like he was originally.
Well, I think they're set to start pre-production on Aquaman 2, which a lot of people were saying that that's rocky right now because he came forth and supported Ray. So now there's some friction between WB and Momoa. But if I were him, I'd be like, my last movie made $1 billion. You're not going to fucking recast me.
No. So what? Yeah, he doesn't have anything to lose. Like, shit. Nobody's going to go see that movie if they don't have Momoa in it.
Agreed.
No mom is going to go.
Yeah, who do you replace him with?
There's nobody. You can't. Name somebody. The answer is no.
No.
Exactly.
No one.
Okay, then. Moving on.
Last bit of news is award-filled as HBO Max's Watchmen made history at the Emmys this year, making the first time a live-action comic book adaptation took top prize of Outstanding Limited Series.
We talked about how much we loved it on the show. Apparently, we weren't the only ones. Watchmen earned the most nomination of any series this year with 26 across nearly every category.
The show won 11 Emmys total, including Best Writing, which included Cord Jefferson and Damon Lindelof, Best Actress from Regina King, and Best Supporting Actor from Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
Speaking in a virtual backstage press room, Lindelof addressed the possible future of the show, said, quote, "It would feel like a huge betrayal of winning for limited series to come back and say, it wasn't a limited series, ... This was my run on it, and I've invited any other artists to take up the baton. I'm so much more excited about seeing what someone else would do with it," end quote.
You know what would be ironic? If he was like, I want no one else to do anything future with this set of Watchmen.
It's mine.
Makes a big stink about it.
Oh my God.
This is the exact opposite. This is, I think, the right mindset to have. If anyone wants to do it, great.
Right.
They're more than welcome to have
mine.
at it. But this is my story. He said for a long time now that he told his story. And this is it. But he also said if someone else wants to continue doing it, then great. If you have a great story to tell, go for it.
Listen, I think it would be really cool if they did the Minutemen. Let's talk about before the Watchmen. We've talked about after. But they presented a lot of characters that I think they can go back and do something great with.
I definitely want to see more background on the world of Watchmen because of that Hooded Justice episode, which was so fucking amazing.
Good.
So if they can pull off anything like that and explore a little bit more, that'd be great. And Watchmen's wins were very, very well earned. Do you want to see a season 2 of HBO Max's Watchmen?
Oh, no. Yes, but no.
But if they made it, we would.
If they made it, I would watch it. I think the way they ended it, the story that they told was really great. You know, I didn't know how they were going to make this season. I was like, what are you going to do? And they blew me away. We absolutely loved it. There were so many moments in there. I mean, again, going back to that Hooded Justice episode where it was just filmed so well. And ultimately, I feel like I understand Dr. Manhattan even more and his ability to be in multiple places at once, having watched that. They did such a superb job in so many different ways. And I think it had a lot of political aspects to it that I'm amazed more people aren't talking about because it's very relevant. It came out just a little too early. That's what it was, but are very relevant to the world that we're living in right now. Again, going back to if they were to do something more with it, I would just want to go in the past. Let's learn more about Hooded Justice. Let's learn more about all these others. You know, you had the comedian in there and many more people who were in the Minutemen that I think they could tell a really great, also very political story with. And I think if I see anything more from that, that's what I would want to see. Because again, going back to his point, you know, you just won for a limited series and now you're going to say, JK, like it's not really a limited series anymore.
It's such a funny thing, too, because they took so many huge liberties with the Watchmen characters and with the Watchmen story, and it did really well. It's one of those things where people are always saying that you need to be loyal to the source material, and if you strive too far from it, then it's not going to be great. Well, this one strove very far from the original material and was great. So you could always do things. That's what always frustrates me is when people say it needs to be by the original creators or it has to stick to the book. And it's like, no, it does not. It's been proven many times that you can take the concept and change it so much. Hooded Justice was changed so much to where it's like, all right, you made a whole new character almost right out of him or explained a whole different backstory to the character now. And it turned out amazing. They won a ton of awards. It's got great reception from viewers and critics alike. So the main thing there is it can be done and it can be done well.
Well, and I think one of the great benefits that they had with that too is they still kept enough of the old characters, you know, to keep people who knew the original material interested and to see what happened, handled them well enough that we weren't just like, that's not right, and got rid of it, even though some of them were a little out there, but whatever. But then they also created all these great new characters. So, for example, I forget her name, but Regina's character. She was, very compelling, loved watching her as she developed, throughout. Mirror Man or whatever. He was so cool. And then, I don't know, those other two people.
And the rest.
And the rest of them.
Yeah, I think we still had, obviously, our criticism with, for example, Silk Spectre's character was changed, I think, to the negative from our perspective. And as when we reviewed the show, I think that's a product of us just knowing the material and being attached to these characters from that. But I'm glad that we were, or at least the show was able to present this, yes, in a very different way, but in a way that viewers or readers of the old comic and viewers of the faithful adaptation that Zack Snyder did with his film were still able to also enjoy this very different take on the characters.
Absolutely. So congratulations, Watchmen and HBO. Very proud of you. I saw Schitt's Creek run like a shit ton also.
Is that an HBO show too?
I don't think so, but I've heard really great things about that show, so we may have to find it.
Well, until I've confirmed that it's also available on HBO, I will also very minimally be like, all right. But if it was, whatever. You'll hear me rant about it next week. But if you have HBO Max, make sure to watch Watchmen.
Definitely.
It is a great watch. And if you want, it's one of those things, again, where if you want the original material, it's there. If you want an adaptation, a faithful adaptation, you've got the Zack Snyder film. But if you want something different that expands on that world, you've now got the show and the ongoing comics.
But with that, we wrap up our news for this week. Before we jump into our Patreon shoutouts, we have our monthly segment, What's New on Netflix? This is your October 2020 highlights.
Very, very light list this week. I know last month we had a huge amount of additions, and even now, like looking at the full list, it's not as much as they normally add in a month. I don't know if that's because we're getting right into the holiday season and there's like a weird quarterly whatever earnings between all the streaming services, but we have a few here on this short list, and these are again only relevant to what Kelli and I have enjoyed in the past or want to watch. For the full list, you can Google what's new on Netflix October 2020.
First one up is Moneyball.
Love. That's probably my favorite baseball movie starring Brad Pitt. It actually talks about the background of baseball and not so much the actual field play. It's all about how you manage a team. And I love that movie. I watch it as, every couple of months. Anytime it's on, anytime it's streaming, I got to watch it. And I think it was nominated for at least one Oscar.
Huh. That's pretty cool. Very good movie. We also have Batman: The Killing Joke.
Very controversial animated film, but I think everyone is in agreement that when they get to the comic portion of the animated movie where it directly adapts the comic book, then that's when people are for it. They're like, the first half sucks, but the second half is great. And to me, I'm like, but they got the ending wrong. He doesn't literally choke the Joker. They've talked about this before. The creators have talked about it, but whatever. People love it. The comic is great.
And finally, we have Unsolved Mysteries. This is the Netflix original, season 2.
There's a ghost episode in this one.
Yay!
I want more paranormal ones, but I like season 1 enough to watch season 2.
But there's also 47 million paranormal TV shows. You could just watch one of those.
But they're not the same as Unsolved Mysteries. I want paranormal Unsolved Mysteries. Let's do a spin-off show, Netflix.
Okay, just called Paranormal Unsolved Mysteries.
Cryptozoology Unsolved Mysteries. Maybe it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Not at all.
But I want more Bigfoot. I want more Loch Ness Monster. Yes, a lot of these have already been like, they probably don't exist, but I don't care. I want to go back to the 90s where all of this shit, there's fairies, there's Mothman.
The 90s where everything was simpler.
But that is the full list. I'm still looking forward to Unsolved Mysteries and to rewatching Moneyball for sure. Let's head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week. Our thank yous to those of you who make the show possible.
This week we have 6 shout-outs. The first one goes out to Renee on Twitter at Yugi's Pokemon.
Renee is adding people on Pokemon Go. If you have Pokemon Go, make sure to add him. He's put up his numbers on Twitter, but otherwise, if you want to add his friend code, it is 1256 4343 3655.
What's the expiration date and the numbers on the back?
Next shout out this week goes out to Corey B on Twitter at Comictropolis.
Corey tweeted an image of the Waynes from Batman v Superman with the following, quote, "A moment of silence, please. Today wouldn't be possible if it weren't for these two. Happy Batman Day, everyone," end quote.
Very bittersweet tweet. Gotta respect the Waynes, and hopefully we'll see this iteration of the Waynes once again in the future. I want to see them in Flashpoint. We shall see.
Next shout out goes out to Shane M on Twitter at S_Miller_27.
Shane has been retweeting Optic Baseball booster box card breaks, so if you're into baseball or sports card collecting, Shane is definitely one you want to follow on Twitter.
Next up, Abdul Red Haji on Twitter
at R.Gadenfar. He quote tweeted a film critic's tweet that criticized Zack Snyder's Batman Day post, but added on there, quote, "Film critics really are scum," end quote.
Damn right they are.
I love this tweet especially because it reflects on that discussion that's going on right now on in the future, in 10 years, are film critics going to be relevant anymore to a lot of us, especially with how we're kind of being exposed to the buyout of that's happening with all of these, red carpet premieres and invites. If you kind of shit on our movie, we're not going to invite you to the next one. And people also realizing that Rotten Tomatoes critic aggregate websites are bullshit. And yeah, I know people always say, I don't care about ratings, I don't care about reviews, but they always cite them. At least that's the state of it right now. Do you think in 10 years, the more or less the general public will wise up to that?
I think so. But at the same time, I also hope that companies wise up to it. I think part of the issue is when you're behind a computer screen, it's very easy to not be professional and to be exceptionally negative, especially if you don't feel that you got whatever it was that you deserved in that situation. So yeah, I definitely think people are starting to see the bias, starting to understand a little bit more. Society in the more general terms, I don't think realizes that yet, but hopefully, within the next 10 years, we'll be doing our reviews differently. We'll have different resources where you can hear from people who genuinely care versus someone who says, well, I'm going to make my money by doing this. And people are more likely to read negative reviews than they are positive ones, realistically.
That's a good one. I'm curious to hear what the Brocat Core thinks. So if you get a moment and you have an opinion on this, go ahead and tweet it over, or you can always use our SpeakPipe link.
Up next, we have Manu on Twitter at ManUnited0710.
Manu hosted the latest Snyder Cut Roundtables discussion where they dove deep on the Ray Fisher updates, the history of the competition between Marvel Studios and DC Films. That was an all-star cast right there of Snyder Cut Roundtables. For Manu alone, it is well worth your time. But if you check it out, you have 3 other amazing guests. So make sure to subscribe to the official Release the Snyder Cut YouTube channel and listen to Manu's Snyder Cut Roundtable, the latest one.
And our final shout out today goes out to Jimmy.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for your Patreon support. And once again this week, also to Manu, Abdu Redha, Shane, Corey, and Renee.
If you too would like your shout out every single month for as little as $1 a month, that's just 25 cents an episode, you too can get your shout out. We will stalk your social media and let the world know what's going on.
You also get the episode early every single week, but you also get a special role and access to our Discord lounge. Yes, you can join our Discord without being a Patreon backer, but if you are a Patreon backer, at the very least at the $1 mark, you get access to the Patreon portion of our Discord, which I think is our most active currently. Like, you have the public one, but the Patreon one, there's constantly a lot of discussion going on in there. So if you're already a backer and not in our Discord, I highly recommend you join up.
No discussion to me. Nobody's been adding me. What's going on?
They tagged you this past week, but nothing happened, so I think they moved on.
Oh, man.
Whenever you go in there, it's like, oh my God, she's going to leave in 2 seconds.
It's the truth, because nobody, responds to me.
Oh, come on.
I feel so sad. No, I think what happened, Discord doesn't work well for me. I don't know. I, put on only ads, and then I get notifications for everything, and so then I, switch it back to only ads, and then it switches back to everything. Listen, y'all talk so much.
We do. And if you too like ongoing Discord chat discussion, definitely join. There's a link in today's episode. But let's head into our review for the week. It is our comic book highlight.
This week, as chosen by you, Sonic the Hedgehog number 32. Oh, that rhymed. Look at me go. The writer is Ian Flynn, art by Adam Bryce Thomas, and the colorist is Matt Herms.
I don't know if this is the last issue by Ian Flynn before he moves on to Sonic Bad Guys, but this was definitely the ending to the epilogue, I feel like, to the Metal Virus saga.
Yeah, one of the things I kind of liked, and I haven't followed all of the Metal Virus saga, I've just jumped in, here and there, but the very first page of this is, oh, okay, here's what happened, and it kind of touched on, I guess, the last 2 issues, really, so that you kind of got caught up pretty quickly, and then it, jumped into all the action and everything that was going on.
I did enjoy how the Sonic Universe crew were able to handle someone like Robotnik, Eggman, their greatest foe, without Sonic. And I think that was cool. I think I would have enjoyed a lot more of that. And I don't know if they didn't want to add more onto the Metal Virus saga by having another, let's say, 2 or 3 issues of let's see how they handle the problems that Sonic would normally handle on his own, but without Sonic. I think that would have been really cool to explore. But at the end of the day, it's called Sonic the Hedgehog. You need to have Sonic on there. And if this is the final concluding issue before we get into the new writer/artist, then so be it. I think it does leave it off at a great point where Sonic is back to the whatever the next villain ends up being. And it's still set up to all the characters are for the most part there, and you get some hints at the returns of others.
I definitely agree with you that I would have liked to have seen more. And, I don't take away from the fact that, I'm not really reading Sonic, right? This story isn't really for me. and I don't know who half these characters are. But when Sonic lost his memories, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. You're going to have like 3 or 4 issues, right, of no Sonic, and what are these other characters going to do, and how can we flesh them out? And that's not really what happened. Sonic came back very quickly, and just the issue itself felt rushed. I felt it would have flowed a little easier if it was, 2 or 3 extra issues. But, again, I am not the market for this. I know people want to see Sonic, and so that's why he's back.
I also almost thought that with his memory loss, we were going to get that, because we kind of got some of that attitude in the last issue of 90s Sonic in a way where, he was going to be a little bit more. Yeah.
Like, nah.
I thought that's what was going to happen, but we didn't. And part of me is also like, well, if he did that, then we got that already with Eggman in a way where he was kind of a good guy in those early issues because of that memory loss. So maybe they didn't want to repeat that. But I think that would be a cool thing to do maybe in a future arc of what happens if that like attitude Sonic, comes back.
That would have been really cool. I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, this I definitely think wrapped up that Metal Zombie, whatever was arc, and we'll get something new moving forward.
If you want to jump onto Sonic the Hedgehog, you've got Sonic Bad Guys premiering within the next month. A new issue number 1. It's going to be a limited series. Otherwise, go in with the next one, which is going to be issue number 33. It should be the start of a new story and a jumping on point.
But with that, we do wrap up the main portion of the show for this week. And next up is the Brocat Block. That's what happened with Daniel and I.
I've got a bit of podcast-related news, but first, let's go into what last week we had talked about how you were going to go out of town, go on a very short vacation in a way. Do you consider, was it a vacation?
No,
I should just ask you.
It was definitely not a vacation. It was nice to get away. So I was going up to, I guess, Long Island for a friend's baby shower. She was going to this baby shower for her family, and she's like, I'd really love to have you there to get to, spend this time with my family and just getting away and da-da-da. And I found a super cheap flight, and I was like, yeah, this sounds great. I'll go and we'll just have some fun. Well, I missed my first flight, so that was a thing. Very frustrating. I guess the airline I was flying on has a rule you can't check in less than 45 minutes before your flight, and I was there 43 minutes before my flight. And so they wouldn't print me a ticket. They wouldn't anything. There were no other flights going out that day.
Do you want to drag them? Do you want to name them?
It was Frontier. It was, but they were very cheap. So I mean, it makes sense, right? Very cheap. So I was understandably very upset in the airport because I couldn't, get up there. So they rebooked me for free for the next day, which was very frustrating. But I got to come home, and you and Leo and I had a movie night, and, it was a really fun night of the whole family being together. Oh, but that day leading up to my flight, work exploded. Like, it was a very stressful situation. It was not okay. Anyway, moving on. So I was like, okay, I got, an early flight the next day. I'll still get to go and spend a day and a half up there with my friend, and that'll be fun. And we wake up the next morning, and Leo's projectile vomiting everywhere, like 3 or 4 times. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's not feeling well. And I'm like, great, I'm going to miss it again. But then he got better miraculously. And you were still very okay with me going, even if he was still sick. So I thank you for that. So got on my flight. Flight up there was fine. Like, I had the whole row to myself, and the row in front and behind and next to me were all empty. So it was just, very secluded. Everybody sitting far apart from each other. The airport in Long Island is so small. There's only 4 gates. Like, it's the smallest airport I've ever seen. And so I get there, and she picks me up right away. The weather was beautiful. It was a high of like 64 the whole time I was there. And where her parents live in Long Island, they just have a big piece of property. And, you sit outside all day and relax. And she took me to her favorite places to eat. And so that was a lot of fun. But then, of course, we stayed up too late. So I went to bed at like midnight every night, and then woke up the day of the baby shower. And, I'm staying in these people's house. I'm not paying for it. They're buying all my food. I once I got up there, I didn't have to pay for anything, which was nice. So I woke up and I wanted to help. Here, let me help you set up this. Let me help with the food. Let me do this. So it was nonstop from 9 until 10:30 at night, when everybody was gone and we were winding down. And so I was exhausted. And then I was up at 6:30 the next day to travel back home. And then, it was right into being home and taking care of Leo and going back to work the next day and laundry and da-da-da-da. So it was a very busy weekend. It was great. I got to try, there's something called an egg bagel. Did you know there's an egg bagel?
is it just eggs with, is it like an egg sandwich, but with bagel instead of bread?
No, they like cook the egg and I don't know, the bread was yellow and it's called an egg bagel.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Anyway, it was so good. So I got to go to like an authentic New York bagel shop.
Yeah.
Authentic New York pizza.
How was the service there?
Oh, man.
How was the customer service?
So we ordered like our 12 bagels because my friend was in front of me and she's like, yeah, we need a dozen bagels. I want these and these and these. And it was my turn. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get one of those bagel sandwiches. He's like, order that first next time. And then like went off to make it because it takes more time. So, I mean, it was fast. And then he was like, okay, here you go. Have a great day. He was nicer after that. I mean, same thing with the pizza places. What do you want? What do you want? And you got to like pick real fast. And they're like, it'll be up in a minute. And you go sit down and you come back and pick it up. You know, it was good. I guess the New York Chinese food is different too. They're like, it's much better. I mean, I like ours better, but whatever. They said it was much better. So it was
Was
cool.
it healthier?
No.
Okay. Well, I don't know. How could it be different?
Like, it tastes different.
Okay.
I don't know. They're just like, New York Chinese tastes different. I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, it was fun. I mean, I know she appreciated me being there. And, you know, it's tough for me because I wanted to help, but at the same time, having, you know, been through a baby shower myself and been pregnant myself and, you know, all these kind of things, I try to jump in to help her. So like she's unwrapping gifts at the baby shower and I'm taking the wrapping paper and folding the clothes for her because she's going to have to pack them and, you know, organizing everything. And I don't want to say her sister was critical of it, but her sister was like, Kelly's still doing things. And Nikki's like, Kelli, you can relax. And I was like, no, you need help. Like somebody has to do these things so that you don't have to do them, right? So that was part of it too, is I just felt I needed to be very involved. And I'm sure that she appreciated that because nobody else was stepping in to do those things. But yeah, it was exhausting. I'm still trying to recover.
Well, I'm glad you're back and hopefully we'll be able to take a proper vacation again sometime soon. Usually we do it right after the holidays because I work in retail, you work in the food industry, which are both very busy places to be at during the holidays. Yours, they need their fuel to go holiday shopping, and I'm a place that the locals do go for their holiday shopping. I
mean, going back to the holidays, we're already making, I don't know if I mentioned last week, we're already making holiday numbers compared to where we were last year. So, we're not even to the holidays yet. So I know it's definitely going to be a very, very busy holiday season.
Well, I can for sure say that our stats were also holiday time busy, I guess. Well, we had September 2020. We talked last month about how August 2020 was our most downloaded month in the show's history. Well, September said, hold my coffee, hold my Palpa coffee, whatever you want to say. And September has topped August 2020 it is now the best, most downloaded month in the show's history. You had a good run, August? I feel bad for August. They had a day August. Or whatever. I guess they had half a month.
They're second. They're
That's
second.
True. They're the second
there
highest.
You go.
So I'm curious what's going to happen in October. I don't know if it's going to continue. I know our average downloads per episode has gone up, and we've had a lot of downloads that are from people starting from episode 1, which I'm like, good luck. I will say it's rough, but so it's a lot of downloads from older episodes, and then every time we release a Sunday episode, people download the last 3 or 4 as well when they jump on. But a lot of that too has been the support from all of you when you retweet, when you share, when you in person promote the show to someone else, which is the most effective way to promote a podcast is, having it be recommended by a friend. All of that has added up to this. And then also the brokettes that we've had since 2012 up to this point that have been returning every week for the Reasons I'm Broke podcast are a huge contributor to those numbers. But as we've said before and in the past, if we had been doing this for the numbers, we would have quit many years ago. We do this because we enjoy sharing all of this with you. We do this because it is one of the few hobbies that at least I know I have, and I know you and I can sit down for a little bit over an hour and discuss, this world of Batman and DC Comics. And then knowing that, you on the other side is also enjoying this because I get feedback on Twitter like, oh yeah, I heard this, or you said this on the show. And I think that's all amazing and great. And to those of you who this episode is maybe your very first one, welcome to the show. And hopefully you found something in today's episode that you enjoyed. Again, a massive thank you to those of you who have made, and September's not over yet, but have made September our most downloaded month in the show's 8-year history.
Absolutely amazing. 8 years already. Son of a bitch.
And this coming Wednesday will be this year's podcast awards. We will find out if we won for the second year in a row under Games and Hobbies. Regardless, we got nominated for the 4th year in a row.
That's awesome.
Under Games and Hobbies, which is amazing, and a huge thanks to the Brokehead Core for that at the very least. And I'm very, very grateful for the nomination.
Me as well. You guys actually like us.
I think based on episode 1, we've gotten better. So I hope in another
100%.
couple years, I can look back at this one and say we've gotten better.
I have influx in my voice now. I'm not just monotone.
Well, there's some days where I'm like, I still listen to me and I'm like, I could be more animated. I can do better. And I think that's good. That's how I keep going on my end and try to get a little bit better.
Every time I'm on drive-through at work on the headset, people are like, Kelli, your voice is so animated. I'm like, it's my podcast voice. Thank you.
There you go. And it really is.
Yeah, that's what I do. What can we get started for you? Oh, absolutely. That's great. It's my favorite drink.
And by the way, our Patreon shout-outs, excuse me. But that is a good high note to end today's episode on. Huge thanks once again, Brokehead Core, for a link on everywhere you can find us. Head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. You can find the link to our Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, everywhere you can find Palpa, Kelli, and I.
And I'm going to change Discord right now so I can see my @. So you guys @ me this week. And I will respond. I promise. Daniel, let me know when this happens, please.
All right.
You could have just texted me.
So thank you once again for tuning in. I am Pyramid King Daniel.
And I am Emperor Papa Kelli.
And Brokehead Core, all will be well. You had said at the beginning of the show that I was like Pyramid Head.
Yeah.
And then I said I was like an Aztec pyramid, if anything. So now I'm envisioning an Aztec pyramid head from Silent Hill.
What? With like little steps?
He's got the steps on his head, and then he's got the feathers all throughout it.
Yeah. He'd have to have some feathers.
He's got the Aztec calendar tattooed on his back. If it's still a horror one, I don't know.
Somebody from Silent Hill is listening, and they're like, yes, what else?
If it's a female Aztec pyramid head, you can merge it with the modern Mexican, and instead of that giant blade that the pyramid head normally has, it can be a little chancla. Because that's just as deadly, if not deadlier. It's just as scary.
I was going to say a bottle of Windex, so I'm glad that you picked up the chancla.
You would come up with a more racist one.
Somehow
that's more racist than the chancla.
I was thinking of Family Guy.
No, Windex. Lemon pledge.
Oh, that's right.
Lemon pledge.
Oh, my God. I like the chancla better. The chancla's terrifying.